The problem with your partner being in the room is she can hear you just fine and can't tell you that your mic is muted while you're talking. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being at the Afternoon Stars Coordinators meeting here today. Appreciate you guys taking a few minutes out of your day. We're gonna run through some of our usual stuff. Got some kudos today and a couple of stars calls to review. So without further ado, welcome. Want to lead right off the bat, and this is just because there's a lot of stars interested people in this meeting, or other people who are. We do currently have an open process for or an open job role for a 0.25 FTE. I would never poach from other children's hospitals, so like they're not allowed to apply. I'll just say that out front here. Well, I mean, maybe they are, but especially for any EMS educators at your district, training officers, anybody who has experience in creating lesson plans and doing the accreditation work to make good, solid, accredited EMS education. We have a role for it, and so would happily take on anybody who's interested. So there's the QR code if you want to share that with anybody that you know. Wanted to give some kudos first to Union Ambulance District. Their chief nominated all of their crews for years of good care, taking care of one of their really medically complex kiddos. And so they received their award last Friday at the East Central Life Saving Awards banquet. And they were kind enough to kind of just include us, and family was there, and it was just kind of a very powerful thing. It was awesome to see family, and they just talked about how appreciative they were of the great care that their kiddo received over the years. I also want to just shout out for SCAD. They are doing one of their annual Halloween events where they invite their families to come up to their main headquarters to do a drive-through trick or treat. So just an idea to be shared with other agencies, or if you guys come up with other ways that you want to participate with the stars in your area. But I just kind of like to share that as an example of things that can be done out there. Also, I didn't throw their picture in here, but I was going to shout out to JPAD as well, who arranged a big day-long training symposium and had a number of us out there to teach with them. So that was, as always, I'll give kudos to anybody who can put 44 people in a room to listen to me talk. So thank you for that. Do want to talk through just a couple stars calls. This first one kind of happened over the summer. Wanted to use this as just a bit of a highlight to talk through, especially from agencies that are further away from St. Louis, what is and what is not always possible. So this is a kiddo who lives in Lebanon, Missouri, so quite some distance from here. I believe, there you go, 2 hours and 23 minutes. So 2 hours for me on the Google Maps. And mom, in that case, had kind of really taken to heart some of our teaching. She had also previously lived much closer to St. Louis. And so when EMS arrived, our house, she said, like, we got to go to St. Louis, and tried to have the crews go there. It ended up becoming an online medical control contact situation. They did end up stopping at the closer ED, but then the patient was transferred to St. Louis. So it's one of those where we do always try to teach right place in the first place. But there is some practical acknowledgement, like if you are hours and hours away from St. Louis, like it's just not always feasible for an ambulance to pick up and take off on a long distance transfer. So it did kind of ultimately end up working out. But it's just one of those things, especially if you're further away, ways to think about it. Now, I do have some trip sheets where, for instance, I'll give them a kudos. Stoddard County said, yeah, we don't care, snowstorm, be darned, we got a kid on event, we're just going to drive all the way to St. Louis. So it certainly can be possible from some of the further out places, but the main thing I want to do is some thought processes beforehand of what's the best way to get this kid to the care that they need. And if that looks like a scene transport into a long distance, that's cool. If that's not feasible, like let's have a pre-plan for how we plan to get this kid to a higher level of care should they need it. This is an old friend of ours who makes it into a lot of our presentations. and this young man, I think, is also sort of that testament to like having to always be ready for the kids to travel. So this kiddo was originally a SCAD star, and had utilized 911 out there a number of times. The family did move to another venue who ran him. And then just for funsies, he decided to attend a sibling soccer game in a different venue and had an emergency there. And so kind of that power of we need a system that tracks kids whereas they travel throughout our regions and our areas. The other thing, though, is we have to be ready and able to access plans from different areas as much as possible. So very fortunately, in this case, the call went to Central County, and Central County was able to appropriately route the plan to the responding agency. So in areas where the STARS dispatch system works, it can be overcome that way. But if you're in an area where your providers are looking up the plans, even if that's a saved link on a tablet top, just remembering how to navigate the search bar and how to search through all stars is really important because these families have a life and they don't always stay at home and they got places to be. And so how do we get to this information that we want to have at the time of the emergency when the emergency occurs where it's occurring? This final one I just thought was an interesting note and something I always encourage your providers to do. So this was a call for a seizure for a kiddo, and just the main thing of note that they had put in their comments, they noted that the blood sugar would be low for the kiddo. But then they used justifiable deviation in their comments and said this group of people on this website said that's okay. So if it's in the STARS plan, like just empowering your providers to say like, this is how I made treatment decisions. It was based on this other information that I had, and feeling free to include that as part of the documentation. I certainly think that's reasonable, and I thought it was a good way to use that in a trip sheet. So. This final STARS call is just going to draw some attention to is actually a super recent one. As many of you know, we often don't enroll behavioral kids as much in STARS anymore. We think EMS is pretty well trained in what to do for that, for those calls and for those kiddos. But that being said, like everything else in STARS, there are exceptions to every rule. And I just wanted to give an example of one of those exceptions, and one that people sometimes ask about is, when is it appropriate to refer behavioral kiddo to you guys? And the answer is really truly often when we need to have some sort of on a standing medical order for a medication or a treatment that is outside the normal. And this is a kid well known to EMS. Unfortunately, I often feel for this family. They go through a lot in this situation. And so they're just with the known aggression of the patient towards any first responders who come into that scene. There is a standing order for ketamine administration if she's being aggressive. And so that was just something I want to call attention. Like, this is a note from a kid who we will enroll. And then they had a successful treatment and were able to extricate the kiddo from the scene. Of note, also just things I think to think through. You probably already are doing this within your EMS agencies, within your EDs, as far as thinking through safety measures. But of course, with our behavioral patients, we need a safe room. And while EDs might have those already in place, an ambulance is an ambulance. And so thinking through like, what additional safety steps do we need to take if we're bringing this patient into our environment? And so there was just some things to consider there as well that we threw into that plan. So just some ways to think through that beforehand, and hopefully to help kind of with some guidance of when is it appropriate to refer a STARS kiddo with that kind of history to the program. So with the numbers, we continue to see growth. You can see we're up 23 patients on a month by month since we last met with you guys. Whoops, I pulled the wrong one. Let me give you the better one. So 28 patients from meeting to meeting since we last met with you guys, and then to pull specific attention to the dispatches, continue to see numbers climbing year over year. We have, as of, I don't even know if this number is accurate anymore. This morning, I felt like we had 4 go out. So we'll see if that catches up. And then emergency activations, continue to see pretty strong utilization there. I did mention this at the last meeting, but just in case anybody wasn't here last month, and just to continue to reiterate it, we continue to make changes to the website, and one of those that will roll out between this meeting and the next meeting that we have is a more robust break the glass. So as many of you all know, whenever you log in right now, it just has a very simple, are you accessing for an emergency or not? We are going to be gathering some more detail at the time of the emergency or at the time of the access. You will still get into the plan, right? Like if you are there for an emergency, just click emergency and you're going to see the plan. If you're a medical officer and you're doing training or going to do a home visit, community paramedic style or something like that, there are other valid reasons to get in. If one of our reasons isn't there, just click other and you'll pick up a nifty box and you can tell me why you're getting in. One thing of note, if you use the other, like it will send a message to a system admin. I know we all love STARS and we think about what it does to provide patient care, but at the end of the day, it is also just a repository PHI that we're giving you access to, and we do have to know why people are getting into it. So please continue to use it for an emergency. We are just doing some steps on our side to make sure we're doing our due diligence on tracking. So as far as year to date, transport calls there, you can see we had 26 for the month of September. We had 2 known non-transports. Saw a dip in the number of people writing us in the trip sheet. So, I would prefer to get it a B, A or a B here in America. So if we could get those numbers up, we'll work on that. And then continue to track direct to tertiary past a closer hospital. And in September, we saw 21 direct to tertiaries. Other than that, calls for September, seizure actually overtook respiratory distress for the month. And then you can see the other cases that were there. So. And our MD approval time has actually been shortening just a little bit month over month. So we're down to 3.7 days between plans being sent for approval and getting approved. And you don't have to look at the bottom part, but I'm getting thumped this year by all of our other plan writers. So I already included the break the glass screen, some other future coming tech updates, integrations. I'll talk more about that as we get further down that road because it will have some impact on ability for people across the St. Louis or the Missouri area, particularly Western Missouri. The one main thing that we're working towards this year that will impact all EMS agencies is we are adding the ability to dispatch down to individual phone numbers as opposed to right now sending it out to an entire agency. The key component of that, though, is that we do need to make sure people are getting in and making sure that those phone numbers are accurate that you have listed in the STARS website. So if people are changing numbers or you're changing out truck phones, we do, in order for the dispatch functionality to work at that 3 a.m. call when they all occur, we do need that information to be as up to date as possible. Cool. For my dispatchers who are on the meeting here today, I just wanted to remind you, in case you had forgotten or somebody didn't tell anyone along the way, we do have some reports we can do in the background. So as a dispatch agency, if you are tagging or geolocating, geonoting, there's probably a really better, more professional word for this, the locations with address notes, we have a pre-made report where you can drop a STARS link into there and tag it with the address. So whether you want to use it for that purpose or else just to audit notes that you have, I did get some feedback this week about agencies who had gone to an address for a kid who no longer lived there. And so there are some ways we've come up with reports to kind of try and help with that to make sure those dispatch features are accurate. All right, our next meeting is going to be November 21st. They'll continue to be third Thursdays at 2. We do still currently have the survey out there. So for any EMS agencies, emergency departments, anybody who has not taken it, we are capturing just a few questions. I think it's like 10 questions. I promise it's not, it's no FAFSA. So just letting us know how you use the system, things we can do to improve the system, and how you feel about it. So that I'll continue to leave up here. I don't think I had anything on the next. Perfect. So that was everything I had prepared today. I got a few minutes here as far as if there were any questions or concerns.
Chat discuss, she can't get
Hey Nick, it's Danny.
Hey, Danny.
Hey, I was gonna send you over. We're working on our pediatric readiness pre-hospital application, and I had built that information out for agencies to fill out regarding their STARS program. So I want to send that over for you to look at before I finalize it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, please do. Were there, see, Miss Susan, it looks like Pam's going to help you out. Were there any other questions? Oh, Miss Susie, by the way, I look forward to seeing you next week. We'll do some teaching. I had reached out to UMR, but I have not heard back from them. So if you have any contacts there in Salem, as far as inviting EMS to the training, I'd happily have them there as well.
I'll let him know today.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ostrich, I ran into a couple of your people this week. I was going to see if you need a few minutes of my time to help set up MOBAP, or if you want to work on anything on that front.
If you want to call me offline, that would be fine.
Okay, perfect. I can help with that. All right. All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Hey Nick, it's Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, I was in Marion, Illinois yesterday, and Amy Mathis from the ED manager at Marshall Browning reached out to me. I guess there's a STARS kiddo in the region.
Okay.
I had my laptop, but I didn't have a chance to show her the plan. And I think it's anyway. She wasn't available for the Pinckneyville training that you did.
Okay.
But again, I guess there's a STARS kiddo that lives like next to the hospital who shows up. I don't remember the name on the kiddo, but when I searched Perry County, I think I'm almost positive she said me it was a female. And when I looked up Perry County, all I found were boys. And so I'm not specific to the kiddo's name. She did take a picture. I'll show you when I made this, and I had this on the table. I threw this flyer up before I left yesterday. So this is what, and she did scan this stuff. I think I added a couple people scan that too, just for that Google page that you told me about. Anyway, she's probably going to reach out to you. Her name's Amy Mattis.
Okay.
So sweet. She was just looking at training.
Cool. Yeah.
Back in the region, whatever works good for you guys. But I just told her I'd put a bug in your ear.
Yeah, just if you don't mind connecting me as soon as she gets through to you, or if you just want to connect us in an email.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, I appreciate it. Anything else?
Hey, Nick.
Hey, GP.
Hey, I just wanted to thank you for your service. That's all.
Gene Pelrito. All right. Well, I'll typhus you later. Thank you for your service.
Look forward to it.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, so if that's the point we're reaching, thank you all for being here today. I hope nobody will protest a few extra minutes back in your day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.